rocks were thrown. My God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There were some rocks thrown. And get a freaking grip.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We spoke to Tim James. Tim James is running for governor of the great state of Alabama. We spoke to him last week and played a portion of the interview on the show. The full interview will be airing tomorrow, where you will hear him refuse to say whether he thought America was worse when it had Jim Crow or slavery than it is now when the gays are allowed to walk around freely. So that was fun. We were not able to get to his positions on marijuana. He wants to pull us back to where not only can folks be locked in a cage for recreational use, but also for medicinal use. That's great. Or on gay marriage, he wants to end it. Also great. We love it. No problems there.
Just want to be clear here that Jacob is being sarcastic.
Obviously,
I know
yes.
sometimes that doesn't always translate across the airwaves. Yeah, it was pretty insane.
Yeah, hot take. It is bad to lock people in cages for smoking dope. That's bad. That is a bad thing that we do as society. And it would also be bad to go back to a place where gay folks don't have the same marriage rights and the benefits that go along with that straight folks do. That would be bad. That would be a bad place to go. And that is where Tim James wants to keep us, wants to take us. However, on the section of the program that we aired, he said he pledged to support the coal miners that are on strike in Brookwood, which is unironically good. That is no sarcasm there. That's good. He said that he would fight to end the injunction and immediately stop the use of state troopers to escort scabs. Unlike the first things, this is good. This is very good stuff from Tim James.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yes, broken clocks twice a day, all that good stuff. However, after the show, actually during the show, in overtime, which you can listen to if you're on the radio, you can find us online, and you can continue listening to us. We go for a full hour and a half after we get off the radio. We continue with the show. So you should find us online on YouTube or Facebook and keep on watching us. But after the show, we got a call from a listener in Decatur, Joe Marshall, and we talked to him. I talked to him further after the call. I talked to some other folks as well, who these people talked to us about what Fob James, who is Tim James' daddy, did in 1980 to striking paper mill workers in Cortland, Alabama. So let's first establish that it's relevant, right? Tim James has never held office. He's never been elected to anything. So when he is talking about his record, what do we have to go on? We have to go on his public statements. We can look to his public statements. We can look to what he's done in business, and we can look to his connections. That's all we have to go on. He does not have a public service record that we can point to. So when he says things, we have to take the sum of all of these things. We have to take into account his connections, his public statements, and what he's done with his business. That's all that we can look at. And let's frankly be real, it's not his business and it's not his policy positions that is giving him a fighting chance at being governor. It's because his daddy was governor. Look, he can't control that his daddy was governor, but let's not be coy. That's why, frankly, that's why he has his business, right? That's why he has his business. That's why he has everything that he has, is because his daddy was governor. That's why he knows the people that he knows. That's why he has the connections to where he's able to raise money. That's his whole life because his daddy was governor. So Tim James' daddy, Fob James, he was Republican through to 1978 when he ran as a Democrat and won the gubernatorial race, which put him in office during 1980, which is when the Cortland, Alabama paper mill strike happened. The mill workers went out on strike mainly over wages. The company was only offering an 8% raise in a year with an inflation rate of 13.5%. Phew, we think inflation is bad now. Can you imagine a 13.5% inflation rate? That would not be fun. I would not enjoy that. The strike lasted for 9 weeks, and over the course of the strike, just like our sisters and brothers in Brookwood, they had a restrictive injunction placed on them, limiting the number of folks who could picket. According to news reports from the time that our internet sleuth David Story was able to dig up, which is really amazing. Like, he sent me these archive articles of what happened of coverage of the strike, which is really cool. According to news reports from the time, the injunction was placed, the injunction that limited the picket line to 3 and then to 2 people at once, was because some rocks were thrown.
Oh.
Oh, no!
Oh, no.
Oh, no! Rocks were thrown! My God! What are we going to do? What are we going to do? There were some rocks thrown. I mean, get a freaking grip, you crybabies. After a long time on strike, the workers decided to violate the injunction and do a mass picket in front of the gate of the plant, bringing out hundreds of mill workers, their family, and their supporters from the community to bring the company back to the table, because during the course of the strike, the company was refusing to negotiate. Instead of supporting the Alabama workers who were just trying not to get a pay cut, Tim James's daddy, Governor Fob James, sicked the state troopers on them, sending over 100 to the picket line, including a helicopter, to antagonize and arrest dozens of striking workers, despite the fact that they had not injured anybody. There was no accusations of anybody being actually injured during any physical disputes on the picket line, during any of the rock throwing. None of that. None of that happened. And Governor Fob James saw fit to send over 100 state troopers to try to break up the strike, including a helicopter. Ultimately, this was successful as the mass picket deflated, but their message has been sent to the company and they were able to bring them back to the table. Unfortunately, though, the paper mill workers were not able to beat inflation and ended up accepting the 8% offered in the first place. I mean, just imagine what could have happened if the governor of Alabama had stood on the side of Alabama workers instead of a Yankee company. Instead of a company based in Connecticut. They might could have beaten inflation. They might could have at least not taken a pay cut.
And, they would have spent that money right there in their community.
Right.
Their schools would have benefited. The local businesses would have benefited. The county and city governments in the area would have benefited. It would have been a way to improve Alabama from the bottom up. But time and time again, those in charge, those who are the political establishment of this state, see fit to always side with the bosses, side with, as you said, Yankee capitalists, multinational capitalists, these corporations. They side with them as opposed to the everyday people who live in this state, who work in this state, who raise kids here in this state. It's a shame, really, and I think it's important, though, that we bring this history up to show where the state of Alabama will use its force, whether it's 1980 or 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, look, seriously, though, that Adam is exactly right. That money that the Yankee capitalists would have been paying the people to try to keep up with inflation would have been spent in Cortland. Instead, it went to bosses in Connecticut. And that is what Fob James, who is again Tim James's daddy, that's what he supported. Violently supported. On a brighter note, though, in the next contract, the company did not. The company only asked for one concession in the contract, and the union said no, and they took it back, and they So there were no concessions in that contract because basically the company said, Joe has told us before on the show that the company said, y'all showed your manhood last time, and so we're not going to ask for any concessions this time. We just want a contract, and we want to keep everybody at work, and so that's what they did. So that's good. But, this is what Fob James did when he was governor in Alabama as a Democrat in 1980. And when he was a Democrat, he was like more liberal than when he was a Republican, because he later ran again and he was governor again from 95 to 99 as a Republican, and he was much more conservative when he was a Republican. And so this is like liberal Tim James, or liberal Fob James, sicking state troopers and helicopters on striking Cortland, Alabama workers. And it's relevant because of his connection to Fob James, who is his daddy, Tim James' his daddy. It's also relevant because we reached out to Tim James's team for comment on this a few days ago, like multiple days ago. It was like Wednesday or Thursday morning that I sent an email to his communications director asking for comment on this, asking if he had, if he agreed with his daddy about what he did to these workers. And they have not responded to a request for comment. So I don't know if I hurt their feelings last week when we talked to them. I thought I was very cordial. I thought we disagreed, and I didn't play coy about some of my disagreements, but I felt like I was respectful. So I don't know why they wouldn't tell me what they thought about this. But so on top of just the connection, there is Tim James's refusal to comment on what his daddy did when he was governor. That is worrying.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you brought this context up because, yes, he said some good things about the UMWA strike in Brookwood and what he would do if he were elected. But here we have a direct parallel.
Yeah.
A direct parallel. I mean, a strike with an injunction, a company that is obstinate and doesn't want to come back to the table. And we see how his father responded. So, talk is cheap.
Yep.
Talk is cheap. And this is a legacy of not just Fob James, but a long line of Alabama leadership of treating our state as like as an eternal colony of the U.S.
Yep.
We are here for cheap labor, less educated labor.
Yankee capitalists.
With a hostile environment for organizing and for unionism. So that's, the way that we have been used in this state. And it's a shame that so many leaders from Fob James down to Kay Ivey are eager to sell us out to corporations.
So Tim James, if you just, look, sometimes I am very bad about not getting to emails. So if you or your communications director are listening to this, or somebody that supports Tim James is listening to this, get their campaign to comment. And if you have a comment on this, if you would say, if you have a comment, I'll tell it next week. I'll tweet it out and I'll tell it next week. I'm not trying to, I'm not interested in frankly, this gubernatorial election. I don't know that one way or another it's going to be much, but I liked what he said. He said very good things about the coal miners' strike. And so his comment on this matter is very relevant because that's frankly the only good thing that he said during the interview. So we need to know where he stands on this. If he wants us to take his commitment to the coal miners in Brookwood seriously, we need to know what he thinks about this. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.